23 years back. These things were important at that time, don't remain important that much now. But what was important was your certificate, that you took note of the disappointment of a young researcher and sent a fresh certificate. That touched me, and I learned from that I should not ignore the young students that I have, or anybody for that matter, who writes to me for certain advice or for certain help or whatever, that I should not ignore, I should respond. And that is what, sir, I have learned from you, and I have also passed it on to my students. Even today, when some collaborators or some researchers I don't know write to me for certain code or certain papers, I don't hold the code myself, but I always forward it to my students who have developed that code, and they usually, 99% of the time, will respond to those people. So that is what I learned. Thank you very much. So I had a few questions which I had in mind. You have been a transformative leader yourself. You have led the CSIR system, where you brought in a transformation in a very big way. The National Chemical Laboratories, which you said yourself in the talk just a while back, that you transformed the National Chemical Laboratory to the International Chemical Laboratory. And for your transformation that you effected in the CSIR, in fact, you probably have been the only scientist to have won the GRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award. That is usually given to people from the industry. But you possibly were the only scientist because you transformed CSIR system. The transformation of the NCL, National Chemical Laboratory, to the International Chemical Laboratory is actually a matter of the emerging economics course in the Harvard Business School. It is a matter of discussion there. So what one or two key initiatives, if you could just put your finger on, which led you to succeed in these transformations? What is it that you did? One or two most important things that you did, that you were able to transform not just one single laboratory, but to an organization like CSIR, which has 40 different laboratories. And also, you brought in transformation as the president of the Global Research Alliance, which actually looks at not just one organization like CSIR, but across the world, in the Asia Pacific, in Europe, in the US. It was looking at CSIR-like organizations in all these countries with 60,000 scientists. What were the key things, maybe one or two, that you could put your finger on that you did to make these transformations?
No, it's a very interesting question, and since you asked about one or two, I will give only a couple of them. To illustrate the first one, let me get back to a lesson that I learned in my childhood, which helped me. As I told you, I was born in a very poor family. My father died when I was 6. My mother brought me up to Mumbai. 2 meals a day was a challenge. I studied under street lights, and the breakthrough came to me because I stood 11th among 135,000 schools in Maharashtra state and got a Tata scholarship. That's how I am here. Otherwise, I would be here. The basic challenge that my mother had was the following. I went to a municipal school, studied in Marathi in my own country. In the 7th standard, I had stood first with some 88% marks. And I had to go to a secondary school. That meant I was walking there to what I needed shoes. I needed a uniform, tuition fees and other things, 21 rupees. And it took 21 days for my mother to get it from a housewife who was working in a Gujarati family. That was a saving that she gave. But at that time, what happened was that all the admissions in good schools were closed. And I went to a poor school. Believe me, that was a breakthrough in my life, that I had rich teachers. One of them was my science teacher, Principal Bala. He did not believe in chalk and talk. He believed in seeing, learning, doing, and the rest of it. And one of the experiments that he did gave me the lesson of my life, which is including institutional transformation. What was the lesson? He took us out into the sun one day. He had a convex lens in his hand and a piece of paper. And he wanted to show us how to find the focal length of a convex lens. And as you know, you move the paper, you move the lens up and down, get the brightest spot on the paper comes. And then he said, this is focal. And they held it for some time, and the paper burned. For some reason, he turned to me and he said, Mashelkar, if you focus like this, your energies, you can achieve anything in the world. Okay. That did two things for me. The first was, science is so fantastic, I must become a scientist. That simple experiment made me go for science. And secondly, focus on you can achieve anything. But as I grew old, I saw more meaning in it. What is a convex lens? What are sun's rays? They are all parallel. And what is the property of parallel lens? They never meet. What does convex lens do? It makes them meet. Right? Look at our country today. Race, religion, language. What we require is a convex lens leadership. What does concave lens leadership do? It takes them apart. In organizations, we require convex lens leadership. So that lesson was very important. So when I became director of National Chemical Laboratory, we saw inorganic chemistry division, organic chemistry division, polymer chemistry division. No two divisions will talk to each other. I said nothing. Team NCR, one NCR. I changed the funding pattern and everything. When I went to CSR, 40 labs. No two labs will talk to each other. In fact, they will compete with each other with the same client. You know? I said nothing doing. Team CSR, one CSR. And we succeeded in that. Because the CSR transformation that we talk about has been now rated in his book, Jain Articles, Scientific Age, among the top 10 achievements of Indian science and technology in the 20th century. But that was all because they all came together. In fact, I remember 11 May 1998, when we had in Bangalore the directors' conference, all 40 directors were there and they signed basically the Bangalore Declaration, which said India matters to us, we want to matter to India more. And as a matter of fact, I remember when I left as a DGCSR, where no two labs were talking to each other. There was one project where 19 labs were actually working together. So we said one or two, so this is one. The second one is what Professor Sinha says. There is no limit to what we can achieve. National Chemical Laboratory, when I took over as DG of CSR, 1989, they were doing import substitution. So anytime I went to industry, if we had a breakthrough, they would say, but have they done it? Has Europe done it? Has US done it? So on the very first day, I remember 1st June 1989, I took over. I addressed in a hall that we have, you have been there, 540 capacity, there were 1100 people there. And I said, let National Chemical Laboratory be International Chemical Laboratory. You know? And the interesting part, and I said we should be able to license our patents to even the leaders, etc. I remember also coming and saying that look, because I had mentioned about General Electric, you know, and he said, you know, geez, the R&D budget is 2.5 times India's R&D budget. Then I gave you the first principle. It is not the power of the budget that matters, it is the power of idea that matters. And we demonstrated that. Just now what I mentioned, that a company who had 40% world market share, we licensed our own patents to them because they never thought about the power of ideas, so as to say. So if you have to think it is these two. Aspirations are your possibilities and power of ideas, not power of budget. And convex lens leadership.
So just to take on from your convex lens leadership, you see, if you hold the convex lens long enough, it burns that paper where the sunlight focuses. It burns that paper. So you think at some point of time,